Today is Monday, June 20th. We'll tell you where millions of Americans can expect record-breaking temperatures today. Also, what to know about COVID-19 shots going into the littlest arms starting today. Plus, a crypto sell-off causing Bitcoin to take a nosedive. A major first for America's biggest tech company. And a surprise finish at an intense U.S. Open. Those stories and more coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Once again, millions of Americans are facing an intense heat wave. The National Weather Service says the plains and the southeast will get temperatures between 10 to 20 degrees above normal for this time of year. And that's on top of the already high humidity. So we're seeing a lot of triple-digit temps already from the Gulf Coast to Minnesota. In fact, it hit 102 as far north as Fargo, North Dakota yesterday. Today, records are expected to be broken in the Midwest before the heat moves into the South. This heat wave is not expected to last as long as last week's, but still, it will be hot. And believe it or not, it's not even officially summer yet. The seasons officially change tomorrow. Starting today, some American babies, toddlers, and preschoolers will be able to start getting COVID-19 shots for the first time. Over the weekend, the FDA authorized both Pfizer and Moderna's COVID-19 vaccines for children as young as 6 months old. And then the CDC recommended them, saying they give kids strong protection against the most serious cases of COVID-19. Both options come in kid-sized doses. The Moderna one requires 2 shots, spaced 1 month apart. The Pfizer option comes in a total of 3 shots given over the course of 11 weeks. Although the FDA recommended parents just go for the first shots that are available to them. The shots have already been shipped out to mostly pediatricians and family doctors, as well as county health departments. And every state pre-ordered vaccines, except for Florida. Florida's state health department said the reason is, in part, what it called the federal government's track record of, quote, inconsistent and unsustainable COVID-19 policies. Also, Florida's government does not recommend COVID-19 shots for healthy kids younger than 17, contradicting the advice from the CDC. Ultimately, this means the state won't be responsible for getting the shots where they need to go, and they won't be offered at state or local health departments. Still, Florida kids will have a way to get them if they want them. Individual doctors' offices in Florida can request the vaccines directly. They'll just have to wait a little longer for the doses since those doctors can just now start to place orders and they couldn't pre-order like the other states could. Elsewhere, shots could be ready today or tomorrow. It looks like people who get what's now the most common variant of COVID-19 have a lower chance of getting long-term symptoms. That's according to the first large-scale study about the Omicron variant and what's known as long COVID. So for this study, long COVID meant that people were still dealing with symptoms like headaches and fatigue a month or more after getting infected. Researchers have been tracking nearly 100,000 people who tested positive for the virus to figure out this risk. About half of them caught the Delta variant last summer and fall. The other half was infected with Omicron this past winter. Well, what they found was that people had a 4.4% chance of getting long COVID if they had Omicron, compared with almost 10.8% from Delta. Some researchers say those results are reassuring. Others say they're disturbed by how many people are still getting long COVID, given that Omicron is more contagious, so it ends up infecting more people overall. Several thousand flights were canceled or delayed over the holiday weekend, and those flights that did take off were especially crowded. A lot of this has to do with many people having a 3-day weekend to commemorate Juneteenth. Yesterday was also Father's Day. So TSA says last Friday ended up being the most popular air travel day so far in 2022. And the numbers were almost equal with those of the same day in 2019 before the pandemic hit. Airports haven't been that crowded since last Thanksgiving. But the problem is airlines and airports say they're still short-staffed, and industry experts say they probably will be for a while. Already, airlines like Delta, Southwest, and JetBlue have trimmed their summer flight schedules, and experts say they might be forced to cut back even more. To be clear, the staffing crisis is bad everywhere, and there have been chaotic scenes in airports from Australia to India to parts of Europe. In fact, Irish airline Ryanair's CEO recently called for help from British military personnel. And Australia's Qantas has brought in head office staff to work as airport volunteers. Back here in the U.S., Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says the government will be keeping a close eye on 4th of July weekend travel, and if flight disruptions continue, airlines could be fined. The biggest wireless carriers in the U.S. are pushing back part of their 5G rollout near airports again. The FAA says both Verizon and AT&T agreed to another delay. Originally, this expansion was supposed to happen in January when it rolled out new fast 5G networks elsewhere. But it got pushed back to July, and now it's going to be another whole year. The delays have been happening ever since the FAA warned that the 5G frequency could interfere with certain airplane devices and that it could impact safety near some airports. Still, the FAA says it's confident 5G and flight safety can coexist. Planes just have to be retrofitted with new equipment, and that's been taking a while. A trade group for the largest airlines says it actually might not even be done by next year, since manufacturers have not produced the parts yet and the FAA has not signed off on their planned upgrades. And it says if the replacement parts aren't ready in time, flights could be even further disrupted. So, to be continued. All right, we have more news stories coming up, but first, a quick break for our sponsor. Have you ever seen someone wearing a colorful, cute pair of flats? They might have been Rothy's. Whenever I wear my bright red Rothy's flats, which is quite often, people take notice and compliment them. So I ordered another black pair just to make sure I could truly wear my Rothy's flats with everything. But I love that I can always go back to Rothy's for more head-turning designs in bright yet sophisticated colors. No matter the color, these are the cutest and most comfortable flats I've ever come across. They're almost like wearing slippers, but of course, much more stylish. Plus, I love that Rothy's takes sustainability to the next level. All of their products are knit with thread made from plastic water bottles. So your new favorite shoes are waiting. Discover the versatile styles you can wear absolutely anywhere and get $20 off your first purchase at rothys.com/newsworthy. That's Rothys, ROTHYS, rothys.com/newsworthy to get $20 off your first order. rothys.com/newsworthy. The value of the most popular and well-known cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, plunged nearly 10% in less than 24 hours over the weekend, dropping below $20,000 for the first time since 2020. Compare that to its all-time high of nearly $69,000 late last year, and you can see that Bitcoin has lost more than 70% of its value since its peak. Other digital currencies are also seeing drops. It's all part of a larger market downturn due to inflation, rising interest rates, the war in Ukraine, and more. A new report says China has had access to American TikTok users' data many times, despite TikTok promising otherwise. BuzzFeed News cited leaked audio recordings of 80 internal meetings between late last year and early this year. The report says TikTok employees in the U.S. did not have access to much of the user data, so when they had to understand information about American user data, they leaned on their colleagues at TikTok's Chinese parent company called ByteDance. Well, U.S. officials have said previously China's access could be a national security risk. ByteDance is required under Chinese law to share its data with the Chinese government. So now TikTok is taking more steps for user privacy. It says it has completely moved its U.S. users' information to servers at Oracle, the world's largest database management company, and that all the data is stored here in the U.S. now. An Apple store in Maryland is now the first of Apple's U.S. retail locations to form a union. About 2/3 of employees at the store in the Baltimore area voted to join. And this is just the latest in a trend seen across the country. Amazon, Starbucks, and others have all recently had some employees banding together to begin to form unions, demanding things like higher pay and better benefits. Apple has more than 270 retail stores in the U.S., and union leaders say workers at a couple dozen other stores have already shown interest in unionizing as well. So far, no comment from Apple about this, but the company has said in the past it already pays more and offers better benefits than many retailers, and that employee unions could hurt the company's business. Fewer transgender athletes are going to qualify for big international competitions because of a new rule. In fact, it's one of the strictest rules against transgender athletes in international sports. The world governing body for swimming, FINA, announced that from now on, transgender women won't be able to compete against women who were born female. That is, unless they began medical treatments to suppress testosterone before they either turn 12 or go through the early stages of puberty, whichever comes later. For transgender athletes who don't qualify, World Swimming is working to eventually set up a new open category of competition for certain events. To be clear, FINA's rules only apply to international competitions like the Olympics and the World Swimming Championships. But advocates on both sides of the issue told the New York Times the new rules could guide the thinking of other sports federations, too. For now, most of them allow trans women to compete if they have taken hormones for a specific amount of time or have testosterone below certain levels. It was an especially close finish at the U.S. Open this year, but in the end, an underdog took home the trophy and a lot of cash. English golfer Matt Fitzpatrick, who came into the tournament as the 18th ranked player in the world, won by just a single shot. With that, he earned his very first professional golf tournament victory on American soil. And it means he's going home with a more than $3 million share of the $17.5 million total prize, the largest pot in major championship history. Americans Will Zalatoris and the world's #1 Scottie Scheffler tied for second, finishing just one stroke behind Fitzpatrick. They will each take home about $1.5 million. That's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, a message from our sponsor. If you haven't tried KiwiCo yet, it delivers monthly projects that help kids explore science, technology, engineering, art, and math, all in a hands-on and fun way. KiwiCo has subscription lines for kids of all ages, ranging from infants and preschoolers all the way to teens, so there's something for everyone. I really loved getting new toys and experiments for my son Dax, all while knowing KiwiCo is made to cultivate his curiosity and creativity. They're always perfect for where he's at with his development at any given time, and he loves what we get with KiwiCo. And I love that they're delivered to my door each month without any extra research or legwork on my part, so I can focus on the fun part, spending quality time with my child. Plus, I love how high quality the materials are every time. Make summer more awesome with KiwiCo. Get 30% off your first month plus free shipping on any crate line with code NEWSWORTHY at kiwico.com. There's no commitment, so you can pause or cancel anytime. Get 30% off your first month at kiwico.com with the promo code NEWSWORTHY. Now back to Money Monday. Home prices continue to climb, and while that's not great news for people trying to buy a home, it is pretty good news for homeowners who now have more equity than ever. Home equity is calculated by taking the market value of your home and subtracting the balance you still owe on your mortgage. So let's say your house is worth $500,000 and you still owe $300,000, you have $200,000 in equity. Well, according to the Federal Reserve, total U.S. home equity rose nearly 20% in the first quarter to nearly $28 trillion. And yes, that's a record high. The data firm Black Knight says the average homeowner is sitting on $207,000 in tappable equity. So if you're a homeowner with no plans to sell soon, how can you turn some of that equity into cold hard cash? Options include taking out a home equity loan or doing a cash out refinance. But financial experts warn borrowing against your home does have some risks. For instance, you could be in a mess if home prices drop and you need to sell. Another thing to think about, since the feds have raised interest rates to try to cool inflation, that means home equity lines of credit will be pricier. All right, thank you so much for listening today and every day. Be sure to follow us in your podcast app so you never miss an episode. We'll be back with much more news to know tomorrow. For now, have a great day.